Do you read me?
Be advised, you are coming in weak and unreadable.
Say again, Com Tower. This is Pacho. Do you read me?
Pacho, this is Com Tower. I read you Lima Charlie.
Com Tower, Com Tower. Request permission to launch and commence the field op. Over.
Stand by. Pacho, permission granted. I say again, permission granted.
Roger that. Launching podcast in 3, 2. You are now entering the field op with your host, Pacho Correa, Chief Warrant Officer 3, United States Marine Corps retired. Get some. Hurrah! Get some. All right. What's going on, everybody? Another week is almost over. Baby Friday is here, or Friday night's Eve, but goddamn, it's almost the weekend, everybody. Hey, welcome back to another amazing show. Thanks so much. I skipped last week. Those of you who follow me on social media might have noticed that I was, back home in, where I grew up, where I'm originally from in Colombia. So, but let's get all the pleasantries out of the way, and we'll do a dive into the show. So, hey, when was the last time that you really took a hard look at your financials and where and are you really happy where you are currently at? In other words, is we provide a service that people who are concerned about the market, who are not happy with their finances, who are not happy with what they currently have, and maybe they need to generate an additional $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, or really plan for their future. What we do is we implement some very specific strategies and techniques together so that you can, if you've been dipping into your savings because you find yourself short at the end of the month, we help you stop the bleeding. We help you implement some very specific strategies and techniques that really get you saving, really get you putting your money out in the market, working, and generate some returns. And in addition to that, if you're interested in making additional $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 extra a month without changing completely whatever it is that you're currently doing, hey, you could go to meetthemoneypro.com and then watch the video in there and on the website, and then there's a meet with me link, and get you some on the calendar. And if it makes sense and you're open to it, then great. If not, that's okay too. But go ahead and check them out because the services that are provided are amazing and of great benefit. And once you're through with the free strategy session, you'll find yourself at a crossroads, because now you're empowered to save money and make money and really get out of that. So check them out and see if it makes sense. The other thing is that obviously, the PACT Act right now, if you haven't submitted for a claim, it is in your best interest to also submit a claim right now. I have helped several veterans get into the system and also get their benefits and the VA claims going. Well, a close friend of mine from high school got 60%, so he's getting some monies right there that he thought that he would never rate. And that's just the beginning for him. So, and then there's another fellow vet, which you guys might have met, that he was already in the show, Ken Crenshaw. We got the process going, and he just got done through some of his interviews and such, and even medical evals to get compensated by the VA. So, and the process is not that hard. There's a lot of tools out there that we utilize. So that way you don't have to pay somebody. One of those non-VA approved VSOs, which, by the way, if you go to the VA website, va.gov, or you can do a Google search of authorized VSOs, there are plenty of other lawyers on there who go through the process as a vendor and get approved by the VA so that you can get your claims and benefits started without going outside of them and then find yourself giving a percentage of your illegally to some individuals that claim to be vets helping you, and then now you're paying them an outrageous amount of money of your claim. So don't do that. So get the process going. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up right here at the show. I'll be more than glad. There's on my TikTok, I have several veterans hit me up, and I point them in the right direction how to get going. So the process is not that hard. You just got to put a little bit of time and effort, just like anything else, and it'll get you going. All right. And look, this show is also brought to you by the Great American Constitution. We all support. Obviously, I spent 21 years, and even to this day, I still support the Constitution. I defend it. Just because I'm retired doesn't mean that my oath to this great nation of ours has expired. So we're here to support freedom of speech, the right to bear arms, among other things that the American Constitution, the rights that some of the American Constitution brings to us. So whether you're one side of the political party or in another, doesn't really matter, because that protects us all. Despite of, again, we seem to be a little divided, and that was another podcast I did a while back. Doesn't really matter. The Constitution is there, is protecting you. So whether you like some of the things that you hear in this show or disagree with it, that's okay too. If you like it, like, subscribe, and follow. You can follow me on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. And those of you who are show supporters on the Facebook channel, please go to my YouTube channel and help me pump up the analytics. You can just go like and subscribe. That'll be great. So support your local podcasters. Basically what I'm asking. So, but I think those are all the pleasantries today. Let's get right to it. So, hey, just in this show, we break down the lessons of perseverance, leadership, as well as success, but with a little bit of military style. And as you all know, I'm an avid reader. I really the last couple of years, because of the things that I do now, helping people and such. I kind of fell in love all over again with reading, which is it's kind of like when I was in the Marine Corps. I really had this love and hate relationship with running. I was by far not the best. However, periodically I would challenge myself, go on half marathon runs on boots and utes, basically in camis and boots. I mean, not the best idea, because now, with a knee replacement, shoot, maybe not the best idea then, but again, kind of like that love and hate relationship, so to speak. So we're just going to dive deep a little bit on two books that really caught my attention. One is 3 Feet from Gold. It's kind of based on a little bit on Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. There's the story of the Darby family. You've heard me say this, where the guy he went out west looking for gold, bought a mine, hit gold, made a lot of money, went back home, him and his uncle, to get more investors, buy more equipment and such. When they came back and got back to it, the fault line went dry, and they kept digging and digging for months and nothing. So when they ended up basically going back home with their tail between their legs, so to speak, they sold it to the guy where they bought the equipment, basically. And that guy, he did study a lot of mining, and he was looking for his break, and he was just patiently waiting. So what he did is, they found this. Most people give up right before they reach success. So when this guy bought that mine, he was already prepared for it, because he had studied, and he hired I forget what you call a person who studies rocks and all that stuff, and the ground and everything. But he hired this guy, and basically when they went out there and take a look, he goes, "Hey, these fault lines tend to shift over time. So if you dig 3 feet, in either direction, you'll hit it. 3 to 5 feet, you'll hit it." And basically, they ended up hitting one of the biggest fault line of gold. The guy became, a millionaire. This is in the early 1900s, late 1800s, early 1900s. So it's kind of like, you can think of it like this. You ever been on a forced march, ready to just give up and quit, and then suddenly the end point was just right over the next hill? That's kind of like the 3 feet from gold action. So, one question, how many Marines, obviously I was in the Marine Corps, but how many of you might have just quit before a promotion, and just because it got tough? So I'm going to give you 2 examples of myself, of these 2 comments that I just made. When I was stationed back in Fuji, Colonel Craig Kaczynski, who's been on the show, amazing dude, love the guy, an amazing leader as well. But he really challenged the crap out of me when I was there. And nobody had done this before where, because basically Fuji, Craig, if you're listening, I mean, Fuji is basically Mount Fuji, that base, Marine Combat Training Center, Fuji, even though it was back then, but the staff, we just kind of run this lodging place and we just make sure that units do their thing. The staff, when prior to us, they didn't do any of this, but Craig really wanted to challenge us. And long story short, we started hiking, we started marching, doing forced marches and everything throughout that area. I mean, and the terrain is brutal. I mean, it is hills. I mean, and it's volcanic earth. I mean, and this is, as we were getting to the winter, and then we got really cold. I mean, it just sucked. But we got through it. And believe me, as a company commander, as a, chief warrant officer back then, company commander, I mean, just don't think that just, sometimes we just, obviously we don't want to portray that to our troops, because if they see you struggling, obviously that just drives the morale down. But man, in my head, I just wondered, man, forget this. I mean, it sucked. On top of that, I mean, even back then, I had some serious injuries on my knees. So much so that my left knee at that time was really giving me problems. I ended up having surgery while I was there. So, when you really want to give up, obviously there are drivers that push you. Some people did give up. They ended up ending up in a Humvee in the rear with the gear, because you just quit mentally. I mean, you're just like, fuck, this sucks. And it does. It does, man. It really does. And even for my promotion, to just kind of rewind it back a little bit, I mean, I had put in for the warrant officer program for 4 years in a row, and each time I just kept getting denied. Obviously, in hindsight and after much reading and educating, because I'm trying to make a business that I have grow with, and there are some challenges. I would just slap with some challenges. I'll tell you here in just a second now. But it's how bad do you want it? So I did give up. I was like, you know what, screw it. And we justify ourselves in our head with our talk. And sometimes that talk in our head, it's evil in the sense that it just kind of like justifies why we're giving up, right? Or even the people that we love, they kind of justify it for us, and we're like, yeah, you know what, you're right. So, but I did quit in a sense. I did say, you know what, if they don't want me, I'm just gonna move on, become a recruiter, blah blah, whatever. It wasn't until my friend that Scott Gilman, Matt Max, who's been on the show, he called me up, and I kind of gave him the same thing, and he's like, okay. Well, he called my chain of command, and I was forced to do a package. It was half-assed, but I was still forced. I put in the package, and long story short, here I am. I retired as a chief warrant officer, which I'm very proud of. So I'm very thankful that on that one I got kicked in the ass, and I was made to go. So just imagine, I guess it's kind of like quitting one of the best MREs. For me, it was the one I used to bring, pound cake. Oh my God. That pound cake, vanilla pound cake, was the shit, right? Imagine, you giving up, that MRE or whatever, you're like, oh man, is this crap? And then you just give it up without finding out that pound cake was at the bottom of the bag, and you're like, oh shit, you know what I'm saying? So, that's in essence how I like to compare 3 feet from gold. Is really think about all the times that you really wanted to give up. You really wanted to just, and you were just a little bit, from striking whatever it is that goals that you achieved. I mean, I've been studying for some exams for these licenses. Obviously, I'm in the finance industry now, and I'm very passionate about it. And I mean, these exams are no joke. I mean, it's like you're studying for the next for like the bar each and every time. I mean, that's the best way I can. I've never been taking the bar exam, but if it's that difficult, I'm pretty sure that, I mean, this is just as bad. So each of these are just the challenges. So much so that, last year I was studying for this one license, and I mean, I failed the test after the third time. You got to wait 6 months. So according to FINRA. So I mean, I'm getting ready to retest that test, but obviously, I in my head I already cracked the code on how to pass it based on this last test. But even this last test, I had failed it prior to that. So again, it's all about perseverance and just keep telling your head and whatever it is that you want to motivate yourself. I mean, I have a whiteboard right here that I constantly look every day. I in the mornings I you know I look at how motivation board in the kitchen. I mean, I just kind of remind myself just so in the sense that I start that negative talk in my head, I kind of snap my ass back in line, back to attention, and hey, don't do that, and because I'm drifting, and that's just the devil, that negative self talk, whatever it is, just kind of digging into you. So really interesting book. I highly recommend it, man. I really need to really get a book club or some type of referral, but. And then the other book at the same time that I'm reading, it's kind of religious. It reminds me a lot of the the Shack. If you haven't read that book, I read it many years ago. It was recommended by a really good friend of mine, Bree, who happened to be in Fuji with me at the time with Craig. Um, it's religious based, you know if you're an atheist or one of those people, which is the hey, whatever floats your boat. But that book really changed my life in the sense many years later it really helped me cope with my dad and my grandfather's murder, and so much so that I had gifted that gift to my brother. I don't think he ever read it because his dad happened. We're he's been on my show. We have the same mom, just different dads. And I was really close to it. His dad was. I really loved the guy, but unfortunately, my brother lost him at very very young. So, but this book is amazing. The book kind of follows this man who time travels, so to speak, to meet historical figures, and they give him 7 powerful life lessons. And so much so that I just started this book Sunday of this last Sunday. I'm already in the last 2 chapters of the book. I mean, that's how good this book is. So they give him some powerful life lessons. The lesson includes basically personal responsibility, having persistence, taking action, and embracing wisdom. I'll even go as far as to add as being accountable, right? Not being putting the blame here, on this person because I'm not there because of him, because of her. Think of that great speech that Rocky I think it's Rocky 4. No, Rocky, the one where he fights that young guy. He talks to his son right outside the restaurant. It's kind of like that speech. I mean, in one point, he kind of gets somewhat of a similar speech, but basically, just being accountable. So how can these lessons apply to military life? Well, I mean, history. I think one of the best teachers is history, and if history teaches anything, is that every great leader faced some type of adversity, but they didn't let it define them. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, everybody, one common denominator about anybody, is that we don't know what kind of shoe, what kind of path people are walking, and unless you seriously get in their shoes, get in their place. So regardless of it, even if that individual has done you wrong, you don't know what their life is like or whatever. So I guess as I've gotten older and wiser, so to speak, and just read a lot and really focus internally, I'm even careful, even if the individual has wronged me. I mean, by no means am I perfect. I'm really careful. Obviously, I just how would I see it from their point of view, right? Excuse me. Not all the time am I perfect, by no means, but I try to take a look at the bigger picture and see how these things. So, but again, these leaders don't let it define them. General Grant, For example, who they talk about in this book, in the Traveler's Gift, is, I mean, he faces adversities, and he wanted to give up. He actually asked President Lincoln, "Hey, I have not served you correctly," and so on and so forth, and please accept my resignation. And Lincoln, luckily Lincoln didn't. The guy proved himself to be a good general. But and even regardless how you feel about our current president, I mean, the guy, I'm obviously a bit older than some of my audience, but in the 80s, the guy when he filed for bankruptcy, a lot of things. He faces adversities, divorces, all those things. But on the financial side, I mean, he's still there, right? Sylvester Stallone faces his set of challenges prior to being, hitting it big with Rocky. I mean, so much so that he ended up selling his dog for a couple of $100s, and the guy ended up paying, like, I think it's like 14,000 or 15,000 just to buy the dog back after he, so people like that. I mean, I think those stories, those are the great, in my opinion, the great American story of success, of people who could have given up, could have, if not, we wouldn't have had great movies like Rocky, all those things. Hey, Arnold Schwarzenegger, I mean, that's another great individual that, because of his accent, he wasn't taken seriously. Oh no, you're just some musclehead that, bodybuilder, whatever. You'll never, you never do anything. So much so that if you haven't watched the movie, I think it's it's one of those Greek mythology guys. I think it's something, not Zeus in New York, Hercules in New York. I think it's 1973 when that movie was made. That is not in Schwarzenegger's voice. It's his voice dubbed in, obviously. And I mean, the guy's made many movies, a very successful career. He's an immigrant, has been the governor of California. So I mean, again, it's all about perseverance. So it's how far do you want to go? I mean, like, Chesty Puller. I mean, all of us jarheads, I mean, Marines, we love Chesty Puller. I mean, we think that the guy's an amazing individual. I mean, the guy obviously had Navy, Navy comms, and I mean, all kinds of stuff. What people don't know is that, his, Chesty Puller's son ended up committing suicide. He was in the Marine Corps as well. I believe he was in Vietnam, and he was an amputee and everything. The guy ended up committing suicide. I mean, those things. And Chesty Puller, obviously, he lived a full life. Obviously, he passed away. But I mean, imagine losing your son. I mean, those challenges as well. George Washington, as well. I mean, he had his challenges. Putting all the weight of having to create this new with his fellow Americans back then, who putting their lives on the line, and everything, treason basically, and rising up against the Great Britain to liberate this new country. I mean, that's amazing. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, they embody all these principles, and I mean, you could sit here and talk about many people, all the people who basically, like Chief Siebert, Aaron Siebert. He's been on the show. He's got his own podcast. I mean, that guy is amazing. I mean, getting fucking blown up, declared dead, and the guy survives, and is still having shrapnel all over his body. And this day, he's telling his story, and he shares it with us. By the way, you can check out his podcast. It is amazing, as well. I mean, it's on every streaming platform, and you can follow the guy. But I mean, people like that, people who, and I mean, those are just some of the individuals that, I mean, there's just so many names that it's just kind of hard to rattle off the top of my head. Guys like, Scott Gilman. I mean, another shout out to Mad Max. I mean, the guy he's set in challenges as well. Who, if you want, you could hit him up. I mean, I'll let him tell his story. But, survivors like that who are still to this day, kicking ass, taking names, and they're still here. And yeah, life is not perfect, but it's how you get up in the morning. And and choose, and you have a choice at that moment. Boom, that alarm hits 5:30, 5:30 for me sometimes. But at that moment you have a choice, folks. What kind of day do you want to have? Is it going to be a good day, or is it a bad day? Despite of whatever happened the day before, I mean, that day's already gone. You still have a choice. You still have a choice. Is it going to be a good day, or is it going to be rainy, or is it going to be sunny? You know what I'm saying? So, just imagine going back in time to your drill instructor, which, by the way, I mean, I did talk during boot camp. What wisdom would you give yourself? I mean, what would be that advice? You know, and I would do it all over again. All over again. I mean, and I ended up working for what we call the drill instructor. Shout out to Carlos Serrano, Gunner retired. I mean, the guy really took care of me. But what wisdom would you give yourself? I think the best one was chow to chow, Sunday to Sunday, and go to church. We got I haven't been an atheist my life, but I was raised Catholic. But man, let me tell you, if you're going to boot camp, you're getting ready to do that, regardless whether you believe in God or not, go to church. I highly recommend, especially if you're in Paris Island. I highly recommend it. It's just it'll take your mind off of that stuff. But yeah, seriously. So if you could take one of these, So as far as a personal challenge, if you could take one of these lessons and apply it to your life today, what would it be? What would that look like? Case in point is I'm going through a little bit of challenges right now, but then again, I can see it if God really wants me to what lesson am I being taught here? Am I being taught perseverance? Am I gonna choose to just say, you know what, I'm just gonna fold, or am I gonna go ahead and make it happen? I don't know. You be the judge. So what can we learn from the power of persistence? So why do most people, why some of us quit? Why do we quit too soon? I think it's a lot has to do with the psychological and the emotional barriers that that makes us sometimes that we give up before the actual breakthrough. You know what I'm saying? So we kind of tend to like, oh shit, this is too hard, it's too rough, my feelings, whatever it is that again, we start forming these barriers on our heads. And again, the difference between success and failure is just holding the line just a little bit longer. Remember in Braveheart when they're fighting the British, and and he's saying hold, and people want to run away, hold, and now, and boom, and that's the same thing. How long do can you hold? I mean, to me, that's the definition of perseverance. I too, in my life, I mean, I've had my set of challenges. I mean, I almost committed suicide. You know, I mean, I get in my head, thank God for the support system, but it's how long do you want to, and I'm still holding, and believe me, I mean, I still have my bad days. Obviously what you guys see and what I post is completely different, when I'm going through these challenges. But again, that's I guess you could say that is my way to bear, so when as it pertains to us service members and the never quit mentality, we all know somebody who has given up or on training or left the service early because of whatever reason, and everybody regrets it. I'm pretty sure. I remember when I was in boot camp, we had these guys. And some of you who went to Marine Corps boot camp, or I can't really speak for the other service. People who sat on their foot locker right there at the end of their bed, of their rack, and saying I refuse to train. I mean, yep, I refuse to train. And the drill instructor's like, hey, blah, 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 whatever. And then they, when they say that, I mean, you're done. I mean, imagine going back home and, kind of what you tell between your head, or telling yourself whatever story it is that you're going to tell yourself, to justify yourself that you didn't make it through boot camp. We had a couple of those as well. I mean, I myself, I was having knee issues because as I was in the high school and everything, I did gymnastics. I did, all the art. I was a gymnast. I did cheerleading. Hey, I was all around all the chicks. So, slow your roll there before you start judging. I had knee issues. I went and when I was younger, I got hit by a car on my right side, and that knee obviously gave me issues. So because of overworked, anyways, in boot camp, I was having knee issues so much to the point where they were kind of, the docs were like, hey, we may have to recycle you or send you home. And I went in there, all teary eyed, and basically I told staff I'm happy. I'm like, sir, there's no way I'm going to go home. Like, I cannot go back home like this. I'm here to make it. I'm here to, and he basically staff I'm happy. Yes, that was his last name. And dude told me, hey, just get back over there and do what you got to do. Don't worry about it. I mean, and I'm here. I am, 20 plus, 30 plus years later. So, if you give up, I mean, can you really, are you really, are you one of those guys walking around? Well, I almost joined, or when I was in boot camp, I got into a fight with my drill instructor and I kicked his ass. Blah blah. And yes, I've met a couple of them dudes. So, and in combat, I mean, we just don't stop pushing through because, things get rough. I mean, you have to push harder. Yeah, it's scary driving around all over Iraq on a vehicle on a convoy where pop shots, and then they're also they're kind of firing. Obviously, artillery is coming. That shitty ass artillery mortar rounds are coming. So, yeah, it's scary, but you don't just say, "Hey, look, I'm done. I'm just gonna go home." Shit doesn't work like that. You just got to push harder. So, I mean, even in the barracks, if you're gonna prank somebody, really good, I mean, you don't just half-ass it. I mean, you gotta do it all the way, because if not, I mean, you're the one who's gonna get it next. So, I mean, that's just kind of putting a lighter side to it. So, what are some of the key takeaways of how to keep going? So, and kind of the lessons from these two books. You never quit when things get hard, right? Because success is often, over the horizon. In other words, hey, that promotion to warrant officer or that selection board after in that fifth time, hey, you got, I got selected. So I'm just kind of putting it where it hit home, right? Boom, you made it right there. Or, hey, you made that hike, and, you didn't quit because not only because for you, but for your troops, for those who are looking at you. It's kind of like that. When you when you're inspecting your platoon, I used to get, and we used to do dress, whether you're service alpha, your blues, whatever. It's like, it's every time. So when you're inspecting your platoon, how many times is that private going to get inspected? By me? Only once. How many times am I going to get inspected? Each and every time I pull up, and I would boom in front of that Marine, and bam, left face, whatever. Look at them. Okay, good to go. I mean, they were inspecting me too, and if I had any, any Irish pendants, the little flirt, anything sticking out of my uniform, my ribbons not in line, and measurements 1/8 of an inch, and all that good stuff. I mean, so you got to lead by example, right? So. And learn from history, whether it's great leaders or your own past mistakes. You got to learn from those lessons and just keep pushing forward, because nobody's going to come for you. Nobody. There's no, when you're going through these challenges, you just got to get through that time frame. Because nobody else can walk your shoes. Yeah, people may say, "Man, that's rough. I'm here," and they may help you take some of that load off as well. But you still got to get through that time frame. So if you're going through challenges right now and everything, lean on a buddy, lean on somebody, and just get through that time frame, right? So what's your 3 feet from gold moment? So here's my call to action. What's your 3 feet from gold moment? What's something you're about to quit but shouldn't? just like I received these letters here, requesting a bunch of information, on the legal side. Am I going to just, give up and say, hey, you know what, just walk away and keep paying a lot of money every month to my former spouse? No, I can't, because obviously it's, so, those, and again, I'm putting myself on here because obviously I've been I've always been very open with everybody here on this platform. So if you could receive advice from one historical figure, who would it be and why? Think about that for a second. Who would that be? Me? Um, I would always, I was always intrigued by Gandhi, and the struggles that he did. And, the man fought a peaceful war, trying to, and basically, in regards to India being part of itself from the British Empire. So, what would lead this man to go on a hunger strike, all that stuff. Granted that the individual he was shot and murdered by someone else. It wasn't the hunger strike that actually killed him. But I mean, I would just want to, just kind of pick his brain. Why? Abraham Lincoln, another great dude as well. I mean, those just some of the people that I would ask him, why. So who is your person? You can throw it on the comments right there on the show. So my final thoughts for you today are basically both of these books kind of reinforce just one simple truth, and just to kind of again, the resounding, everybody, it's just persistence. Persistence beats resistance, right? So, and no matter where you are, who you are, active duty, transitioning, civilian or even civilian already, success is just 3 feet away. But you got to keep pushing through. Don't give up. Hold that line. So, before I sign off today, kind of leading into the topic, if you've heard me say earlier, if you're going through some really tough times right now, please reach out to the show. Reach out to me. If you're right there, let me be that last conversation, and so that way I could get you the right help, and because I do have great resources that I can put you through that will get you back into the right mindset. Because as honorable and great as some of these all the challenges that we used to see on social media all the time, including doing 22 push-ups every day, it doesn't bring you back at all. So, and if you haven't heard from a buddy, I want you to do a buddy check this weekend and just say, hey man, I'm doing a buddy check, pass it forward. So let's start a chain as well. So I'd be happy to report that the trophy's back. I'm lucky to have her here. She's been traveling all over Japan, doing some amazing things over there, working with some anime. So if you want to follow her on social media as well, please, you can hit her up. She has a lot of good friends on the anime side. So don't be afraid to hit her up. And if you follow me, you've seen my TikTok channel as well. You've seen that myself and my service dog were also doing some traveling and such. So, but hey, throw your comments out there. Let's start a community. If you need help with anything, hey, you can always hit me up. So remember to stay relentless, stay focused, and we'll see you next time. So with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and index over here. So Ice Tomas, Daisuki. We'll see you next week, everybody. Hoorah, get some.